We are represented. By the way, I found it here. And my discretionary color is going to put two. And then we'll have to introduce that. Well, no, I'll show you.
Ne diyor WhatsApp serisi?
Crazy.
Thank you. With matching haircuts now.
Just got Good afternoon.
Want to come back?
As we prepare for the funeral, I would just like to run through the order of events for those that are not familiar. So the word levaya means escorting. We're going to begin today with escorting Aaron's coffin to the graveside, at which point I will lead us in a Mechila meditation. We will invite Cantor Goldstein to sing Psalm 23. We will then do Hespedim. We are going to have 4 short eulogies that will represent 3 areas of Aaron's life and passion, which are his Jewish community and practices, his music, and his recovery community that are here as well.
And then we're going to invite Jay to speak on behalf of Mount Nebo, where Aaron worked. Then we will proceed to Kavura, to the mitzvah of burial, and we will join together and bury Aaron. After that, there will be the Tzedok Hadin, and I will say Kaddish. And before we leave, I will lead another meditation, V'hachai Yitena Libo, of what we can take away today with us as we leave. Now, being that there is not going to be a formal Shiva, I'm going to invite anyone who wishes can stay here and share with others. And there will be a social at the York Street Club following the service. I think it's on the main floor, where people will have a chance to socialize and share. A more formal meeting over at the club will take place at another time, which has to be organized. Our Jewish tradition of doing things in haste does not work so well for others who need to be organized. So we begin the funeral procession with Psalm 91 that will escort Aaron to his resting place. You who dwells in the shelter of the Most High, who abides in the shadow of the Omnipresent, I say to you of the Lord, who is my refuge and my stronghold, my God in whom I trust, that he will save you from an ensnaring trap, from destructive pestilence. He will cover you with his pinions, and you will find refuge under his wings. His truth is a shield and an armor. One of the big principles of Aaron's life was not to live with resentments. And when Aaron was found on Monday night, there was a note in his pocket that had Rose's phone number, medical instructions, his wishes, and it concluded, paraphrasing from President Lincoln, that he dies with resentment and malice to no one, and his heart is full of forgiveness and love. Shalom. That is what he had written. There is a custom to ask mechila, to ask forgiveness. There are a lot of us who may have temporarily lived in Aaron's head rent-free for a very short time. because resentments are the cancer of the soul. And with all the ailments, Aaron didn't want to be a landlord with people living in his head. So as we begin the funeral, I extend upon verbally for those who wish to do so in their heart, that we let any resentments go so that Aaron can be in peace. And I extend on behalf of the note that Aaron left, that we shouldn't walk around with guilt, shame, or any other toxicity, because Aaron forgives us and wishes us love. Psalm 23 by Kenta Goldstein. With Rabbi's permission, I met Aaron when I first came to Denver in 1993, almost 30 years ago. We were both in our 30s. I had a wife and 2 kids already. And the Rangers were in the Stanley Cup Finals for the first time in 50 years. And we watched the winning game together. And that was always in my mind every time I saw him. But we also discussed philosophy and Judaism and the world, as I'm sure you all did. But we also talked Grateful Dead. I wore this tie for him because I went to 42 shows, and I don't think you went to that many, but being a bass player, Phil Lesh, we had to talk about Phil. But I think about Aaron's commitment to whatever it was he was doing. The last thing here at Mount Nebo, as I drove in today, he wasn't there to direct me to the right place. That'll always be there, that missing Aaron directing us here. The 23rd Psalm is often associated with funerals, but we sing it on Shabbat at Mincha, when we're asking for rest, Menucha. So I wish Aaron rest and a good trip wherever he's going next. Mizmor leDavid, Adonai roi lo echsar, binoteshe yarbitzeni, al melchot yenaleni. Nafshi yeshover yancheni v'maglet tzedek hoy leman shemo kama ki elech beketzal mavet lo irar כי אתה עמדי שבטך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני תערוך לפניי שולחן נגד צוררי תישן בשמן ראשי, כוסי רוויה, אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני לאור
לאורך ימים.
Psalm by David, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He revives my soul. He directs me in the paths of the righteous for the sake of his name. Even if I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod, your staff, they will comfort me. You will prepare a table before my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup is full. Only goodness and kindness shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord for many long years. David talks about fear. He looks to God for one thing and one thing only: to deal with his fear. The circumstances of his life, he does not ask God to change. He asks God to get his head straight so that he is aware of God's presence in his life. And the only thing that changes is the fear. The valley of the shadow of death is still the valley of the shadow of death. In helping Aaron deal with his fears, his emotion, he was part of a community of people who struggle on a daily basis to feel the conscious presence of God within their life. And his personal representative to take care of any earthly remains and duties that he has is a friend of his, Robert, who I will invite now to share. Just to
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me okay? No? Is this better? Okay. I'll see if I can raise the volume a little bit here. All right, thank you. First off, on behalf of Aaron Ainbinder, I want to just thank everybody for being here today. To look out amongst everyone and see you all here is just amazing. You know, this was a pretty sudden situation, and I'm guessing that it's taken everybody aback a little bit or a lot. So with that said, there are a couple things that came to mind about Aaron that I just wanted to share with everyone, where I had reached out to a few folks that know him well. And in addition to that, when people just calling with questions and acknowledgments, and some of the things that I heard were, you know, about his gentle nature, his kindness, his love, his service. And it reminded me of a few things where in one passage in a favorite book that we have, it says, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. And when Rabbi Yossi was talking about facing fears and doing that on a consistent basis and living a life of service, that reflects that. And that was one of the things I just wanted to share with everyone. In addition to that, Aaron had it's very evident by the people here of his thoughtful nature as well, and his ability to go the extra mile. And some examples of that would be, how he took care of his mother. Diligently, for a 5-year period. And, and he was always seeking on to how he could help in any situation with some. Jay had shared a story with me earlier today that he would always bring donuts and burritos to the guys. And that just illustrates his thoughtfulness. And I guess in closing, I just want to say, we've all been touched by Aaron, and his legacy will live on with us. And so, thank you for allowing me the time to say something. Thank you.
Thank you.
Aaron took everything in life seriously, and he took Jewish community very seriously. I don't think it's just a happenstance that he passed in the JCC, the Jewish Community Center. And I want to acknowledge the presence here of Rabbi Stephen Booth Nadav, who had, I don't even know what word to use, but he was the first person to find Aaron. And that he be found by a rabbi is, again, not just happenstance. And to show what Aaron meant to all of us, Rabbi had to go home. I came. He has been in contact with me to make sure, not to follow up with me because he was sure I was going to do my job, but just so that he could go to sleep knowing that somebody was doing what needed to be done. And I want to thank you for that. As well, I see Rabbi Danny Wolf, who was a chavruta, who studied with Aaron. Now, to represent the Jewish community in his life, Aaron had extended family. And a special couple that Aaron had in his life are the Weisbergs. In fact, I met Aaron in the Weisbergs' sukkah. So I'm going to ask Seth to share a few words about Aaron and his commitment to that part of his life.
In Psalm 34, we learn many of the challenges of the righteous. The man of faith is especially sensitive to his and others' challenges. The life of a prophet is challenged by the deep and clear vision. Aaron was indeed a prophet, a man who held himself to the highest standard and to the highest possibility. The notion of doing good to get something was anathema to Aaron. He rejected spiritual teachings that imply that good deeds brought a reward in the world to come. He thinks you should do good deeds. Aaron was the soul of honesty and integrity. If he said it, he lived it. When he said, "Peace, brother," he truly meant he considered you his brother. He said what he meant, and I learned a lot from accepting his kind words and corrections. The Psalms are songs of the Jewish people, and Aaron led our prayer gatherings soulfully. On the bass guitar, he provided the foundation that supports and lets others take the lead. That was Aaron's approach to many things. Aaron was a spiritual seeker. He fueled his efforts with books of self-improvement, a devoted students to the discipline of Musar, diligent enough to study Ramban's Guide to the Perplexed. Aaron's entire being is described in his well-thumbed copy of Strive for Truth. As a young man without a father in his life, he had the great blessing to study for his bar mitzvah with Cantor Weiss. As a sober adult, Aaron and Cantor Weiss reignited their relationship as Aaron learned to lead the daily prayers. We treasured the decades of our friendship. Oh, the many times that Aaron and his dear mother Marcy joined our festival table. When he sang Had God Yod our Seder, he made sure the animal noises were well rehearsed. I mentioned it was almost midnight. He looked at me and said, "What's the rush?" That empty chair will signify the emptiness of our hearts as we rejoice and celebrate without. Aaron's work for Mount Nebo is the embodiment of Ahavas Yisrael, ensuring a loving farewell to members of our community and caring for their bereaved families. Aaron's Jewish practice spanned the many expressions of our community. His studies helped him find a thread that united them. Aaron was a friend who loved me and taught me. While expressive of his feelings, he was always on guard to avoid lashon hara, or hurtful speech. He had the knack for recalling things we spoke of many years before. We are taught to do teshuvah, or repentance, the day before we die. How will we know that? Aaron's approach was, do it every day. Aaron also taught us to express gratitude and friendship on the day we die. I'm not sure the time of his death, but on Monday at 4:15 p.m., I received this email. Thanks, let me know how I can help what you were involved with. I was trying to get some fundraising going on. Just got it done, my friend. Thanks for the phone call of support and encouragement on Friday. You lifted my spirits greatly. The Seder with you and Rivka was most enjoyable. Shalom, Aaron. I mentioned Psalm 34, which Aaron and I studied many times. When I said I was troubled by the verse about the trials of the righteous, he told me to look at the previous verse. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted. We've lost a sweet friend, and I'll treasure the memory of him greeting me with peace, brother, for the rest of my life.
Making one of two appearances today, because that's what musicians do. They always do an encore. Music was a huge part of Aaron's life, and Andrea, you played with him, rehearsed with him, and I'd like you to come up and share first a bit about his music, and then at the end of today's service, I'm going to ask you to come back and share a message from Aaron's brother, Larry.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, everyone. Aaron, our friend, a kind man with a heart of gold, a man in the moment, man. An honorable, kind, loving, and giving man, the epitome of a mensch. A wit beyond measure, Aaron was truly always in the moment. He triumphed in our joys and was there in our sorrows. He delighted in a great joke and had the best ones. He never forgot a birthday, a yard site, and always was the last one to finish filling a grave. His Jewish education, Hebrew school, and absolutely a flawless Hebrew reader in prayer was always with sincere devotion and spirituality. He loved working at Hill Middle School as a para, special needs kids. He developed close relationship with all his students, especially with Maximo. If you dig far enough into his information, into his music, he wrote an incredible song in his memory. Joel, my brother, and if you don't mind, all the graduation, all the students from GW, it's like a reunion. Would you just raise your hand? All his friends from GW are here. There's so many. Well, we remember this tall guy at GW, an impressive stature. Remember Aaron with his equally fabulous and impressive fro. his Israel or Jufro. I mean, that bright red hair was gorgeous. Our families, the Myers, Browns, Elenoffs, and of course the Ainbinders, spent our summers at the JCC. Nancy, Joan, Beverly, Marcy, and all the other moms were always there, perennial fixtures at the JCC. Swim team, mostly just fun in the sun. He loved to fish, cook, but mostly play, compose, and listen to music. He was in all-state orchestra from GW, getting his bass back and forth from Hill. Here's a visual for you. Riding his bike with the bass across the front with a friend holding the neck and the fingerboard, running alongside to get it to and from school. His devotion to music was what it meant to work, to practice, always intensely. We talk about people that are talented. His was with talent, of course, but hard work, and he did it well prepared to, and pushed himself even more. All his skill, technique, and true talent was unmatched in his performances. He danced when he played. Wishing Aaron great music in his future. We played many a duet, many gigs. I went to hear him. We know what his voice sounds, and it will always be with us. And wise beyond his years, conversations with Aaron were memorable. His insight, intuitiveness, and responses were always colorful. While he was colorblind, he viewed the colors of life, his friends, and wisdom of an old soul, but always refreshing and inspired. You will be truly missed, my friend, and always remembered. You always made us smile with your music and just your presence. Love you, Aaron.
Thank you. His last gig was actually here. We know many people who collapse at the office, but I think this is the first time that I know somebody who's being buried at the office. I want to acknowledge the staff from Feldman's, who without imposing, asked kindly that the service be at 1 so that they can be free, the whole office can be free to attend. It speaks to who Aaron was as well. The groundskeepers here at Mount Nebo, and to say a few words, Aaron's boss, Jay, I'd like to invite you to talk about Aaron and his unique relationship with Mount Nebo.
Jay Siegel, the administrator of Mount Nebo Cemetery. So much has happened in the last 48 hours that I really didn't have a chance to prepare remarks. So I'm going to speak extemporaneously, and I'll keep it brief because there are a few other people to speak. Can you hear okay? It's unusual for a cemetery administrator to speak at a funeral. Usually the cemetery administrator, our crew, mortuary people, we're sort of in the background, out of camera range. My only experience is really speaking at funerals were when a couple of few cases where family didn't have clergy, and I was honored to conduct a brief funeral. Aaron first came to me, well, before I say that, I wanted to acknowledge Cousin Bernadine. As most of you know, our office is not here at the cemetery, it's at the BMH Synagogue. And everybody that works at the BMH Synagogue, whether it's the preschool, the office, the clergy, we're like a family, even if we're in different roles, different divisions. And I want to acknowledge the BMH family, Nora and Rachel are here today. I also want to acknowledge one other key person because he made it easy for me to work with Aaron, and that's the chairman of our board of trustees, Mr. John Berman, back there. Aaron came to me initially as a volunteer. In fact, you remember on a Sunday. And he continued to volunteer with us as we began a records cleanup project within the synagogue. The records for Mount Nebo, which date back to 1898. And it became clear that this guy's good. hard worker, detail-oriented, dedicated. And it occurred to me, and with a little pushing from his friend, my beloved girlfriend, Andrea, decided to make him a paid employee and fully train him so that there would always be backup, which any good organization does, to handle anything that came along. And Aaron really jumped into it. He loved this job. He loves this cemetery. And I told him one day, I said, we have a very simple mission statement. We're going to make Mount Nebo, or remake Mount Nebo, a crown jewel of the Jewish community and a benchmark of how a cemetery operation works. That's what we're going to do. And as a product of the industrial corporate world, as an executive, I'm going to empower you to do certain things that we need to get done so we can do other things. I'm not going to micromanage you. Do whatever you need to do, the hours you need, and involve me as you see fit. Funerals, we will work together, and I will communicate any calls I get from the funeral home. And I do want to acknowledge today one other little thing. Normally, you know, me, Feldman, guys, we're all in the back. Today, Hardin's Finest, the crew from Hardin's Finest, Feldman folks, we're part of you. We're part of the mourners because Aaron was a part of that family. It's a team effort from start to finish to do an internment. So Aaron embraced the tasks I gave him, or the tasks that he saw fit that we needed to do. He wanted to work on the website. In touch with our webmaster, and he just took ownership to the point where I said, you're going to have to retrain me because I'm so caught up with this other stuff. We worked funerals together. Aaron undertook a complete survey, a replatting, as real estate people call it, of the entire cemetery. So we knew where everything was, every reservation, every grave, every issue. And he got it just about done. And that's 33 acres and 8,000 graves. I couldn't believe it. And yet today I stand here, and normally at a funeral, we would be in the back, out of camera range. And I would say, Aaron, you handle this, I'll handle this. I almost wanted to turn around and say, Aaron, today, pull the boards, the last act. I'll do that today because it's the last honor I can give my friend, my coworker. Losing Aaron is a huge gut punch, not just to me personally and to so many of you, but to the operation of Mount Nebo. And my commitment is to keep pushing forward. Our mission statement hasn't changed. In Aaron's honor, we're going to continue to do that so that the legacy we give to our successors, they can take it to the next step, but they will know that there was one guy who was key in that effort. It should be remembered for that. And that was my friend. And I don't think of him as an employee. He was my coworker, Aaron. I'm going to miss you, buddy.
So this ends the eulogy stage. And we are about to embark on the kavuran, on the burial. And as Aaron would like to say, it's time to talk about the elephant in the room. Usually we attend a funeral and the custom is that we assist in the burial, but the burial is the responsibility of immediate family members. This week's Torah portion discusses an obscure law of the high priest, that the high priest was not allowed to attend any funeral, not even immediate family members. One exception, the high priest was walking on the road and he found somebody lying on the road and there was no one else to bury them. The high priest was obligated to become tameh and do that mitzvah of burial. It is known in our tradition as meis mitzvah, a person who has passed, that the obligation of burial is upon everyone. At a normal funeral, the obligation is upon the family and the community steps in to relieve them of that burden. Today, we each have that mitzvah. We are Aaron's family today. So I am going to ask that court step forward and we begin the kavura. The custom is that we do not pass a shovel from one hand to the other hand. Rather, when we finish, we will put the shovel back in the ground to show our hesitancy in letting go of Aaron. Inside the casket, there is sound from the Mount of Olives. Mount Nebo is where Moses is buried. We bury our departed with some sand from the Mount of Olives to show that life doesn't end. There is a prophecy that the Mount of Olives, when the coming of the Mashiach happens and the resurrection of the dead, it will take place starting at the Mount of Olives. So to honor that tradition, the first earth in Aaron's grave is from Har HaZesin. Now we can form up lines on both sides of the grave. I will put the first 3 shovelfuls of earth into the grave, and then you're all invited to join in this mitzvah.
I'll read this. I should have read it earlier. This way. He was gone. His brother. Very. He was gone, so nobody could reach him until today.
Well, exactly what you were. Deixa eu ver uma. Ne, aqueles ne, mas não, não desse, né?
Maybe one day I'll be big shot, be big at Denver.
Oh, no, I quote No, I wonder why
Já vou te listar ainda.
He got his job. He did over 2 years ago. He would always typically we've had a lot of this so Aaron, Derek, I'm there, and Aaron's level. I know she just had. I don't know, maybe he was telling me whatever it was. And somewhere else. We were short.
Yeah. And all that so much stuff.
Yeah. There we go. Nice.
Shower, I think.
Whatever you want to
He doesn't like I just.
So I used to, I didn't, I used to this.
Yeah.
So almost always like, black guy. Black guy. Yeah, it was just here. I just called him. But I called back to the letters.
He was talking to me. Nice to talk to
Maximo's parents. Maximo's
Everyone wants. How you doing? You were Aaron's friend?
Yeah,
Oh, all right.
Right.
Okay, say that.
Now we should have time for control. Because we all need to. I'm saying. Oh, exercise.
Really?
Hey, what's going on? Yeah, how you been, Marty? Long time no see. Yeah, my first choice was 1970. I like it. The Shea Theater in New Jersey.
I knew him really well.
It was,
All right, are you guys goofing on the job or what?
Just this last few days. Sugar finger. Okay. Show that your tendons go through. My mom has it, and it's wow. We just walk. Now it's just a hard to move. Yeah. Now I find
Are you going to stay?
Andrea, really nice to see. Almost always. He said no, but he's got a better stay in the surgery center. I think it's better we didn't, because I'll see you, Bob. Steady on there.
What's all in?
I was trying to find it. Don't- Like in my contact.
Oh. Yeah, from there.
I said it's done my encore earlier.
Oh, it's not.
But yeah,
Oh, you were the guy.
He was holding the Stingray bike.
And you got to tell us.
He was running off. Carson Element.
Oh, even started the elementary there. I thought it was a kill. See, you need clarification. I know, right?
Like close enough.
That's still okay. It was still accurate.
Yeah, and the
Get the
red,
energy.
and the big,
Yeah.
bro, red.
Yeah.
Oh, that would have given me too much.
Oh, yeah, the pro. Right?
The bird came
It's like
there.
the pro.
Talk.
You said that. Pro. Sky and bird were all like, yep, yep.
There was one in Costa Rica.
What's your name? You're Josh. I know you. I saw the brother. I thought David. Oh, Josh. Well, I better wrap it up.
Hello. I'm going to receive.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're almost done with the burial. We're going to form up now. What happened to the?
What's it down?
Oh, I see. That's brothers were.
How you doing?
Good, how are you? I hear you got away.
Because of the Jewish tradition in which we try to do the burial as soon as possible, it took a while to find somebody who had his brother's contact information and contacts his brother Larry. So I'm going to invite, as I told you, Andrea as a musician gets an encore. She will be reading an email that his brother sent to the funeral. So if you could just have your attention here.
Thank you, Rabbi. Can you hear me? Ladies and gentlemen, this is really important because it took a while to find Larry